Welcome back, guys. My name is Brandon, and today we've got ourselves a welding and fabrication project. Let's get going. So this week, guys, we've got a stick welding project, and I've also got a new tool that I want to show you. This thing is awesome. It's going to be a huge time saver in the workshop. At the time of this video, this is one of Evolution's newest saws. It's a 15-inch metal cutting chop saw, model S380 CPS. This is basically their heavy-duty version with a couple upgrades, and I love it. So it's rated for 15-inch, but it actually comes with a 14-inch blade installed on it, which is good because unless you really need the 15-inch blade, it just costs more. 14-inch blades are a little bit more economical to buy. In the event you do need a 15-inch blade, it comes with the collars that go here. Apparently there might be some sort of difference between the 14-inch and 15-inch blade. There must be, or they wouldn't send them. But yeah, so everything that I do, a 14-inch blade is more than ample to get the job done. But this is what I'm really interested in, guys. So setting up a 45-degree angle or 15, 30, just setting up angles, that's kind of what takes time. Well, check out this new setup that they've got. So all you do is loosen up this, pull this, boom. It locks in right there, snug it down. You're literally at a 45-degree angle. I mean, how much of a time saver is that in the workshop? For me, that's going to save a ton of time. You guys know I do a lot of stuff that has 45-degree miter cuts. You want a less of a cut? See, in it, you can hear it'll detent right in. Boom, right there. And you can override it too. Like, it's got a little thing right there, so now it can just swing however. But yeah, nice. And another nice upgrade that I noticed that they've done is they've used actual like rubber. Like this is a rubber feeling cord versus like that hard PVC type plastic cords. Some of my tools have the hard PVC cords on them, and I'm not a huge fan. I really like that this has like that nice rubber cord. You don't have to go with something like this. I did a video a while ago. I'll put a link up above talking about, you know, what you want to do. Maybe you're real serious about it like I am, and this tool, something like this, is a must for me. But you can get it done using just these tools here, and I've showed you guys tons of videos about doing it. Again, watch that video I just linked. You can literally cut using just an angle grinder, you know, but it's what you're looking to do. Portable bandsaw, this, in my opinion, this is the Cadillac. I prefer this over a bandsaw by far. But I'll put a link down below to this saw so you guys can check it out. But let's get going, guys. Enough of that. Let's start building. I just got an order for some adjustable target stands. Now, if you're not familiar with those, if you guys that watch my channel regularly, you'll know that we built some of these a while ago. I built it using MIG, so I'll put a link to that video up above. But today, we're going to build using stick. So I got to build a few more. I've got some of these made, but I've got to build more. And we're going to use stick just because I like welding with stick. So the way these work is if you're out target shooting, you can take a piece of strapping, drop it down in this little pocket, tighten it down, and you can actually staple a piece of cardboard across the strapping. This right here is adjustable, so you can adjust the width. The hardware I've got on this is stainless steel, so it won't rust. And you can also use 2x2s, or what they're called here in the United States, 2x2s. They measure like 1.5 inches by 1.5 inches. I know you guys, they use the metric system. I'm sure you're going to be like, yeah, 2x2s measuring 1.5 inches. That makes sense, but yeah, it doesn't make sense to me either. But 2x2, I guess, is what the width is before they're dried, maybe, or before they're milled. I don't know. But anyways, a 2x2 will fit into this if you don't want to use a piece of strapping, which is pretty common. So then you just take your set screw, you tighten down your set screw that would hold your strapping in nice. If you're going to use 2x2, you put it into this one, use it there. So this is just 1.5 inch angle. But as we build these guys, I will tell you exactly what we're doing and using for materials. I'll give it to you in our imperial system, but I'll also convert it at the bottom into the metric system. So the first material we're going to start out with is some 1.5 inch by 1.5 inch square tube. That's going to be this piece right here. And the thickness on this is 14 gauge or 0.0747 thousandths. Now the reason this is important is this will come in handy later when we go to welding. Now if you guys starting out, this is an awesome tool to have. I carry it with me, especially when I go to the to the metal yard or scrap yard. So that way I know exactly what I'm looking at. You know, a lot of times you're working with metric materials or imperial stuff, and this just helps determine what it is. Plus, for us older guys like myself, maybe our eyes just don't work quite the way they used to, and 16 and 14 kind of feel and look the same. Well, now you know. So I'm going to make this piece 15 inches long, and it looks like our hole is about 3/4 of an inch back from the end. Tool of choice to mark with is one of these silver streak markers, and for you guys that don't know, because I didn't know, a viewer pointed it out, is that you pull off this little back cap, and inside the back cap is actually a little sharpening apparatus, so you can get this thing right to a point. So look at that. We're dialed right in. So yeah, for you guys that didn't know, a lot of times what I used to do is I just scrub it on the table, kind of like old school. If you use old schoolers, you'd use your soapstone, and that's just what you do. You'd rub it back and forth on your metal, and that would sharpen it up. But yeah, these come with a little cap on the back with a little sharpening piece inside. No charge for that tip either. Alright, so we'll put a mark at 15, and I'm going to put it right on this corner. And I'll show you guys why I'm making that mark on that corner right now. It's natural to want to take the material, put it on your saw, tighten it up, and crank it down like this and just make your cut, okay? But there's a better way of doing it. You can cut it and that'll work, but you're going to get a lot more life out of your blade if you cut your stuff on the bias. So by turning it like this, and I've actually turned this mark into a black mark so you guys can see it a little bit better. The white didn't show up that well. So now what we're going to do is, you can see my hand here. I'm going to loosen this up, slide this right to where it needs to be. That's where I want to make my cut. I'm going to snug up our clamping system, double check it, make sure it's where I want to be. I got to make a small adjustment. That looks good right there. Snug up your clamp and make your cut. Now, the reason this works a little bit better is there's less surface area making contact right now. This will drastically increase the number of cuts that you're going to get out of this blade. My other saw says that one of these blades is equivalent to 20 of the abrasive discs. So that's a lot. These just do such a better job at cutting, and you'll see here what I mean in a minute. And you can also send these blades out to have them sharpened. I don't think anyone's going to tell you that, but there are companies that do it, and they do a good job. If you lose some of these teeth, you can get them welded back on, but that's just something to consider. But yeah, these are the way to go, guys. This is the Cadillac of tools, in my opinion. These saws are loud, so make sure you're wearing your eye protection and hearing protection. Now that cuts virtually as fast as a regular saw blade cutting through a piece of wood. It cuts that fast, and it's virtually burr-free. You can see how clean, straight, and square that cut is. It's just an absolutely perfect cut. All we got to do to get this tuned up and ready to weld is just bevel the edges. I mean, it's not even sharp. And this tube is 3 by 1 by 1/8 inch. We're going to make this piece 8 inches long, and we're going to want to cut, again, the thinnest part of the material is this way. You wouldn't want to lay it flat. I have some videos where I have laid it flat, and it just takes so much longer, and it's more abusive on the blade. So you want to stand this up vertical. Because we're not putting the material on a bias, we don't need this piece right here. So that just slips off. That's a nice, easy on-off installation. Then we push our clamp in, give her a little snug down, and check to make sure we're good on our blade. We might have to make a little adjustment. And I can see we got to go just a little bit that way. Perfect, that's where it needs to be. Tighten up our clamp, double check our work, and we're good to go. You don't push down. I like to let it go just real slow into the metal so it doesn't build up a lot of heat. Look at that, guys. That's absolutely perfect. Can get any better than that. Hey, gotta do one more. There we are. So the next order of operations we're going to do is we're going to come back 3/4 of an inch on each of our pieces, and then we're going to punch a center mark. And so that you guys can see real well, I'll try to draw the lines all the way across. So now what I'll do is I've got a spring-loaded center punch. I know that this material is 1 inch wide. I will hold my spring-loaded center punch on 1/2 inch and give her a push. And there's that. And then this one is 1.5 inches wide. Half of that is 3/4. So we will hold it there. Now sometimes this little centering punch tool doesn't make a sharp enough point or deep enough point to keep the drill bit in, so then I'll just go back through with a regular center punch and hit it. Then I can just take a regular center punch, put it into that, give her a nice hit, do it again, same thing here. Yeah. That way it gives it a nice indentation so that the bit doesn't skip off. Now we'll bring it over the drill press and we'll drill them out. What I'll do is I'll get it started with just a smaller drill bit and then we'll drill it out with larger. I think it's got to be like 3/8. I have this little chip tray underneath. All it is just a cardboard box, but it makes it nice because it catches all the crap that comes off from all the shavings. Then I'll throw my second one in. Then I'll start my drill bit in the hole. Now add a little bit of cutting fluid. That's it for that one. There. Now we can go to our finished drill bit size. And these are a 3/8 stainless steel bolt, so we're going to have to be at least 3/8 of an inch diameter through this. So we got to do that next. So now I'm just using a 23/64 drill bit and drilling it out to its finished size. That should go right down through. Oh yeah. Perfect. little drill press doesn't always have the grunt that it needs, you know? But it works. It's served me well over the years. Now the next piece we're going to build is this right here. This is 1.5" angle, and it's 18 inches long. Well, I got a free source for this piece here. Free metal. And the way that I do that is you can use metal bed frame. Now, angle iron is cheap, don't get me wrong. There is some drawbacks to using metal like this. And although it is cheap to buy 1.5" angle iron, and that's what this measures, 1.5", you do have to do a little bit of work to this compared to regular metal. Obviously, if we went to the scrapyard and we just had some 1.5" angle, we'd throw it up into our saw, cut it off real quick, and be done with it. This, you got to do a little bit of extra work because this stuff is hardened. And I'm not sure why it's hardened, but I know it is. So if we just chuck this into that, we're going to destroy that blade. So we don't want to do that. So normally what I do is I will cut whatever I need out of this with my plasma cutter, grind it nice and flat, and then it looks good. But that's extra work that you'd have to do that you wouldn't normally have to do if you had some just standard 1.5" angle that you bought from your metal yard. So our piece needs to be 18 inches long, and it needs to have a hole in the end of it. So I've incorporated this existing hole 3/4 of an inch back, so I'm going to cut it there. That will match up with that. And then I come over here, 18 inches, we're going to cut this off. And I'm going to use a 4.5 inch diamond blade. I've got all kinds of videos, tips and tricks, guys, if you want to check it out, on working with scrap metal and just a bunch of welding and fabrication tips. I'll put a link up above to that so you guys can check it out if you haven't seen it already. But when I first started out, I started out using a hand hacksaw. Seriously, I mean, just a hand hacksaw cutting my metal. That's how I did it. And then I graduated to a sawzall or a reciprocating saw. Then I went to like a bandsaw. 4.5 inch grinder was somewhere around there. And but now I use this because this is, I'm serious about it. And you don't need to have this Cadillac of a tool to do the work you're doing. But I will tell you, in my opinion, it's the best way of doing it. So if this is something that you're looking to get into, one of these tools might be something you might consider. So to cut this, I'm using a cutting disc. It's a diamond cutting disc made by a company called Graph Black. And this blade is not directional. Some are. I have some Lennox blades. Those are. It matters which way they go. These do not. As you can see right here, that arrow right by my finger shows it can go either way. But for the Lennox blades, underneath the cover, I actually draw the rotation of the tool so that way I can match up the rotation so you don't mess up the you don't mess up the cutter. But yeah, the reason that we can't cut this bed frame on that saw is because, like I said, these are hardened metal and we don't want to destroy that blade. And how do I know that? Because I've done it. So, lesson learned. So don't make the same mistake I made. Trust me, it's not a cheap mistake. Make sure you're wearing hearing protection, hopefully a respirator, and safety glasses when you're doing this stuff. Obviously, I've had tons of eye injuries from metal work over the years, so avoid that. That's no fun, especially right now. Who wants to go to the hospital with all that's going on right now? Chances are you go in to the hospital for something wrong with your eye, and then you end up with some sort of respiratory issue. So yeah, just be careful right now when you're doing this stuff, guys.
Are you ready? Here we go.
Yeah, that does a pretty good job. It's not as fast as a chop saw, but it does a nice job. What I like about this one right here is compared to the Lennox is that the Lennox has all these little segments in it. So it tends to get a little jumpy. You can see how it's, and I think that's maybe to keep the blade cool, but you can see how it's diamond, then it has a space, diamond, then a space. Well, this isn't. This is continuous rim all the way around. So when you're cutting, it's just constantly smooth. There is no bouncing around. So for that reason, I kind of like this better. and I think comparatively the prices are about the same. But if you're wondering about any of the stuff that I'm using, I'll have links down in the description. You guys can check it out. You can also click on the tool section down in the description, and it lists everything I've got, all my equipment, machines, and whatnot. So if you guys are wondering, then you'll know. Let's cut this side and get this side done. Some of you guys may say, well, yeah, you got the material for free, but now you're using a process, cutting it, that is a little bit slower, which is this right here. But I mean, it's not a lot slower. It's, you know, that's just something I guess you guys got to weigh out. And, you know, when it comes time to welding it up, we still got to do all the other processes now. We're going to have to grind it a little bit here and there and bevel everything and tune up our edges, make them look good. But yeah, so yeah, that's what we're going to do next. So now we'll get these holes drilled. Again, this could be a little more tricky. This would be where a plasma cutter would work nice and you just burn a quick hole down through there. But this is hardened metal on these new ones, so we'll just have to take it easy. Make sure we add some lubricant so we don't destroy our bit. But those are 3/4 of an inch in, and that's what we're going to do here. So we'll come in 3/4, and we'll come in 3/4. And it doesn't have to be perfect. I'm just going to kind of eyeball where center is over there. I won't punch it or any other thing. It'll be just fine. Winging it. I'm going to use stick welding. Stick welding is my favorite process. It's going to be a little bit harder because this tube is so thin, but I think we'll get through it. So for this one, I'm using my Blue Demon. It's a 160 amp stick welder and TIG welder. It's dual voltage, so that's pretty awesome. So for you guys that don't have you know, 220 or 240 workshop power, all you do is you just plug the welder into this adapter right here, and then it just converts this welder automatically without you having to do anything to just regular standard outlet power, 120 power that we have here in the United States. So yeah, pretty slick. You don't have to do anything special. You can just use this adapter and it's good to go. That makes this nice and portable. So you could run this off, you know, I assume you could probably run it off a generator, or like I say, if you're doing work at a buddy's house, it's super light, it's compact. I just like it. It's got a real nice arc. It's awesome. It's got hot start. It's just an awesome welder. If you want to know more about this, I'll put a link up above and you guys can check it out. So I've got some loose 7018 welding rods, but how do I know what to set the amperage at if I don't have the box or anything and that's all gone? Well, let me show you. Spool up millerwelds.com. It's a weld setting calculator. We're going to click on stick welding, and what material are you welding? So I'm going to be welding mild steel. And let's select the electrode we're using, and that's 1/8 inch 7018. So let's see, 1/8 inch right there, 7018, and tells us what to run it on. Suggest that's going to be hard, 110 to 165. We're going to want to go to the low side of that, just because that's a lot of heat for that. You can run on AC or DC electrode positive, or you can run it on DC electrode negative, has the least weld penetration. Let's run it on that, and it's also got low penetration, so, and it's an all position rod. So let's run it on DC electrode negative and see how that works for us, just because we are using some pretty thin metal here. DC electrode positive has a tendency to generally dig a little bit deeper than DC electrode negative, and I have a comparison video on that. I'll put a link up above, and I believe that was with 6013, but yeah, you guys can check that out. So for DC electrode negative, we take the the lead for the electrode holder, and you can see there's positive, that's negative there. So we'll stick electrode negative into that one, and then we'll stab the other wire onto positive. or what they say across the pond is they call this earth. We call it here in the States ground. Same idea, same thing. Alright, so now we'll set this to the lowest setting we got, which is the recommended 110. I think it's going to be a little high, but we'll go there, see how that works. And I've got my $60 DIY exhaust fume setup. If you haven't seen that video, I'll put a link up above. Good. And we never fully weld anything out until it's completely tacked together. That way if we make a mistake, we know we can fix it. Alright, you see how this restart is difficult? I'm having to hit it. Let me show you a little trick here. You see how what that's done is the center core has actually burned back and the outside flux is longer. Well, that's why it won't restart. So when it's not in the electrode holder, just tap it on the table. That'll break off a little bit of that flux, exposing the core in the center, and then you can restart them easier. No charge for that tip. I have welding clamps, but you can also use these type of clamps too, which these are primarily used for wood, but they also work good for this too. They're just not as quick, but they work good. Yeah, that's a little too hot. It's a little too much rod for this. Did you hear it burn through there? I'll try turning it down a little bit. That's some of the challenges when welding, you know, a thicker material to a real thin material. This is real thin. If this was 1/8 inch, it probably wouldn't be that big of a deal, but the bead looks good up until where it blew through. But you know something? It's not a space shuttle. It'll be fine. I'm down to 87 amps now on the machine. Alright, I was able to patch that in, and the way I did it obviously was with a lower amperage, but I also focused more of my heat on the thicker metal, and that's what you want to do generally anyways. So if this is our thin metal, we want to focus most of our heat all down in here, and rod angle is going to be a big factor in that. We blew through. This is actually too much rod for this piece. Oh, it's making a wicked keyhole, but I'm filling it. It's right on the cusp, guys, of just being way too much. Sometimes these are the struggles of using what you have. I don't have a 7018 rod that's smaller than this. Like I said, I knew that this was going to be an issue going into this. But, you know, sometimes you got to make do with what you got, and that's what we're going to do here. That's exactly what we're doing. Oh yeah, we got quite the crater there now, but we'll get her. filled that goiter up. Now we just got one more back here. And it's not pretty, but you know what? It'll work. So now we just got to weld on the nuts, finish just welding on the other piece, round off this edge, get a coat of paint on it, and we'll have it finished. And here we are, guys. We got it all done. Not absolutely perfect, but you know, it is what it is. It is a target stand. You can see the paint got a little bit of issue in there, but you know, for what it is, it'll work just great. Like I say, these will work awesome as target stands. Some strapping can go in there, and 2x2s can go in there, and yeah, and it served the purpose. And you can't beat the price on these. This piece here is actually free. So hopefully this gave you guys some ideas on working with scrap metal, or you know, sourcing out some scrap metal. It could be an awesome way to learn, pick up like this right here, this type of project. This would be a great beginner project for someone where you don't really have to worry about something structural or a component failing. You know, worst thing that's going to happen is, you know, if your weld breaks, your target tips over. Big deal. So, you know, nobody's going to get injured because of that. I want to thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for tuning in. If this is something that you like, please don't forget to rate, comment, and subscribe. I upload new videos every Friday for you guys looking to get into welding or starting out or want to know about tools, what to buy, what works good, what doesn't, the things that I use, pointers and tips. I've got a playlist that's down in the description. You guys can check out all those videos. Until next Friday, guys, I will see you then. Take care, stay safe, see ya.